Hopefully this clip is not just completely washed out by the wind, but I just wanted to give you guys an update because I know it's been a while since I've done a vlog. I'm not very good at doing vlogs. I'm not very consistent, and I'm beginning to realize I don't know that I really like them that much, like making them. I like watching them, but I don't know if I like making them. Anyway, it's pretty cold out here today, but I wanted to film outside. It's been blazing hot for so long, and now it's finally cooling off. Like, fall is definitely here. So update wise, I'm in a bit of a reading slump actually, and it's not the usual kind of reading slump. Usually if I get in a reading slump, it's because the book that I was reading took me longer than usual to finish. But what's happened now is I've DNF'd the last two books that I tried to read. And the first one of those was Children of Earth and Sky by Guy Gavriel Kay. And this was a book that I was very excited to read, but just because the cover is beautiful does not necessarily mean that the story within the cover is good. Much as I might want it to be, that's not how that works, and that's something that I should know by now, but I was drawn in by the cover and it just didn't work out for me. I was very bored reading it. I think I DNF'd it on page 26 or something like that, which is not that much, but it felt like I was reading for a very long time and getting ultimately nowhere. There was a lot of info dumping going on. I couldn't connect to any of the characters because the book just spent so much time info dumping. It didn't develop any of the characters. It didn't make me care about them. And then as I flipped forward to see where does this book get good, I just kept coming across sex scenes all over the place, and they weren't very explicit or graphic, but I was like, why are they in here this much? And so I got on Goodreads and I read some reviews, and apparently this is something that Guy Gavriel Kay does a lot, and if I'd known that, I don't think I would have picked the book up. Part of me thinks that I should read more extensively on Goodreads reviews before I try to take a chance on a book, but the problem is I don't want to spoil myself. Because if this book does turn out to be amazing, I don't want to spoil it for myself and then not be able to enjoy it. I really wish that freaking bird would shut up. Anyway, so another thing that I saw in a Goodreads review was that a lot of the events in this book are repeated multiple times from different characters' points of view, so it's kind of boring because this is something that you've already read and now it's just retold from another character's point of view, which can work, but I think the problem with this is that it comes across as being a crutch to pad the word count. I think that that's probably why this book is as long as it is, and I do not think that it needs to be that long. So there's that. And then the other book that I DNF'd was Mercury Pictures Presents by Anthony Mara, I believe. And this was a fiction book about 1940s Hollywood. At least that's what it was supposed to be about. And I enjoyed it while that's what it was focused on, but then it does that thing that a lot of historical fiction does where it goes into the past. And I am not a fan of that. I just don't really care for it. And so I lost interest when it did that. And in that case, it comes across as I think it doesn't have enough plot. I think the book doesn't have enough plot with just focusing on Hollywood, and so you add in the subplot, and for me it just didn't work, so I DNF'd it. Right now I've moved on to Ruination by Anthony Reynolds. It is a League of Legends book. I don't play League of Legends, but I do know a little bit about it. I thought it sounded interesting. I am about 150 pages in as of filming this clip, and I got to the 100-page mark yesterday, and it was when I reached this mark in the book that it started to really feel like a book based on a video game. And that's because it is. There's a very good reason for that. I don't think that a book necessarily should feel that way. Like, just because it is based on a video game, I think you could still probably write an in-depth book based on this video game, but that's not what happened here, and everything's kind of flat right now, and there's a lot of telling going on and not very much showing, so it's getting boring as well, and it's really a struggle to motivate myself to read it. So that's where I'm at right now with that. As far as writing goes, I did finish, quote-unquote finish, my 1920s book 2. My word count goal for this book was 70,000 words, and it was like 61,000 I think when I finished, so now I'm going back in and adding in my edit scenes. I'm not necessarily convinced that these are scenes that need to be in here, and that sounds like a bad thing to say because, you know, people always say like every single scene that happens in this book should be to advance the plot or the characterization or something. What I do like about these scenes, though, is that I think it makes it a more complete and compelling story. It's more complex, so in that regard, I think they do fit in. But we'll see what happens. I have some more edit scenes that I need to figure out where in my outline they fit in and then actually add them to the manuscript. Since I've started doing my edit scenes, I've moved up from 61,000 to 64,000 words. Another thing about this manuscript that's kind of weird is that I usually don't put a lot of description scenes in the first time that I write it. I just want to get the words out and on the paper, and I focus more on character emotions and actions and inner monologue and stuff like that, because that's what I love to write. I love to write inner monologue. But in this draft in particular, I didn't really do much description at all. Like, I basically did almost none. And that's unusual. Like, I usually do at least some. The reason that I don't like doing it initially is because I feel like that's a weak point for me. I'm not very good at those scenes. So I prefer to go back in and add them after the fact, because I don't want to interrupt the flow of the narrative and spend 15 minutes wondering, what does this room look like? So I just go back in at the end and add those. So I'll have to go back through and add all the description in during my read-through, which I will do once all the edit scenes are done. So that's where I am with that. This book was particularly difficult for me to write. It felt more like pulling teeth, and I don't know why that is. I kind of worry that my job is sapping my creativity a little bit. I don't know that that's true. That bird is really annoying me. I think I'm gonna go back inside and continue this there. The lighting in here is probably not that good and my glasses haven't changed completely yet, but we're just gonna go with it. So anyway, as I was talking about my job, I sometimes worry that my day job kind of saps my creativity. I don't know if that's true. It's just that I've written 3 drafts since I started this job, and 2 of the 3 felt very difficult to write, like more so than usual. Now that could just be because both of them were brand new drafts, and the one that didn't feel difficult was a rewrite. Basically, like, there wasn't much to do with that. I don't really know. It worries me, like this book particularly being so difficult to write, it worries me because I didn't feel like writing, and I didn't want to write very long when I sat down and did do it. And then as I was writing, I just thought, man, this sucks. I hate everything that I'm writing. But when I read through parts of it for putting my edit scenes in, I was like, this doesn't suck. What are you talking about? So I don't know if I'm just in my own head or whatever. Like, I try to tell myself that progress is progress no matter how slow that it might be, and that you can't compare one draft of a book to another. I wrote the draft of book 1 in this series last November for NaNoWriMo, so at this point that was almost an entire year ago, and I don't know if that is part of the problem, because for my 1920... Oh my gosh, this vlog's a mess. That was my phone going off. The library just called me to let me know that they have Babel in, and I was the first one that signed up for it, so I'm like, okay, I gotta go pick that up, which is like a mixed bag, kind of, because I'm still slogging through Ruination, as I said, and I have another book sitting here for me to read, so yikes. What was I talking about? Oh, you can't compare one draft of a book to another. And with my Victorian series, I started writing that 5 years ago, which is crazy to think about. And I have 11 of those drafted so far. And I was basically doing at least 2 of those a year, but that was the only mystery series I was working on. Now that I have both the Victorian mystery series and the 1920s mystery series, only one in each of the series will probably be written in a year's time. So I can't do 2 Victorian mysteries anymore, and in the span of 1 year most likely. And I can't do 2 1920s ones either. So each of the series will only get 1 book drafted per year, probably. And I don't know that that's a problem. I just feel like, obviously, the Victorian ones are probably easier for me to write at this point because I have 11 of them done. The more you do something, the easier it gets, generally speaking. And I only have 2 1920s drafts done, so it's much newer. I haven't been writing it as long, and I'm not going to get as many of them drafted in the same amount of time as I did with the Victorian ones. I don't know if that will end up hurting my productivity with this series or not, or if I'm just getting into my own head way too much and overthinking it. That's probably the case. I feel like I haven't gotten much work done with the edit scenes because this last week at work was absolutely crazy. Basically, there was a project that I was working on that I got done by the deadline, and I thought that I was done, and then it was a case of, no, you're not done. Here's more for you to do, which was very stressful to have that dropped on me, but hopefully we're done now. And this weekend can be like a normal weekend, and I can, you know, have it for myself, for me time, although I think it will probably still be fairly busy because we're going to do some family things, and then tomorrow I actually have an appointment to get my ears pierced. And I got my ears pierced many years ago in 8th grade, and it did not go well, probably because I had them pierced at Walmart, but anyway, I was in 8th grade, what do you expect? And it didn't work, and the piercings had to be taken out, and the wounds basically were left to heal, and I don't have a piercing anymore, so now I'm going to get a professional evaluation as to whether or not I can get re-pierced in the same spot. If not, I'm not really that interested, and I'm doing the thing where I overthink a lot. After I made the appointment, I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea. Like, I've looked at earrings over the years and thought, oh, those are cute, I can't wear them because I don't have a piercing. So I thought now's the time for me to finally do something about that. And I do want to do something about that. I'm just worried that something will go wrong again. I am nervous when it comes to the possibility of infection, and my previous piercings did get infected, even though I thought that I was doing everything right. I don't know why it happened. I could guess, but to this day I don't know for sure. So there's always the possibility, of course, that something could go wrong, and there's also the fact that I hate pain and I do everything in my power to avoid it, which I think most people do that. I don't think a lot of people like pain, so the idea that I would willingly subject myself to pain because it's a piercing, that's a little bit strange to me. Like, why would you put yourself through this? But anyway, it's scheduled for tomorrow. We will see what happens. I just realized that the cuckoo clock is in this room ticking, and that's probably really annoying in the background. I am so sorry. This vlog's a mess. Oh gosh. Hello, it is now the next day, and I just wanted to pop on here briefly to say that ear piercing was a success. I feel like I definitely learned a lot throughout this process. The fact that I got it done the first time at Walmart, that was not a very smart thing to do, but I didn't know any better at the time. And of course they used a gun there, which I read today was actually not the best option. The needle is more effective. It's supposed to hurt less and also have less complications associated with it. So that's what they used at the tattoo parlor. I was very happy with the way that it went. Everything looked super clean and it was fast, and it did hurt, but it didn't hurt for very long. That's the thing about it that I find strange. It is very sharp, but then it's gone almost immediately. So I'm very happy with that. Now the only challenge that remains is preventing infection from happening again, and that's what happened the first time and why it went wrong. So the fact that everything went so well at the parlor makes me feel like I had the best setup possible to ensure that everything goes smoothly from here. As far as writing goes, I have only just a little bit more of my edit scenes to do. I got it done this morning instead of in the afternoon. Previously, before I got my job, I just preferred to write in the afternoon, but lately that wasn't working for me. And I've been feeling way more productive in the morning, so I thought, well, I'll just write in the morning and see how that goes, and I think it went much better. So I'm very happy with that, and that's all I have for you today. I will check in later. Okay, so 1920s Mystery number 2 is done. I completed my last edit scene earlier, which brings me to a total of 67,000 words. I don't know that I have enough detail scenes to add in to make it the rest of the way to 70,000, but that's not really something that I'll know until I try it. Sleeping in these studs did not go very well. I am a side sleeper, always have been, probably always will be. I cannot for the life of me sleep on my back, so that didn't really work, but I went to Walmart today and bought a travel pillow, the one that's shaped like a U, so hopefully that will allow me to put my ear in the middle of the pillow and not put pressure on it, because I don't think that would go very well, and I want to give these the best chance possible to heal as quickly as possible and also not have anything go wrong. So that's where I'm at with that. Other than that, it was a pretty decent day. Not at all very stressful. I was just really tired from not getting any sleep all night long, and after the morning was over, I was pretty much dragging, so hopefully tonight will be better. I did not really film an outro for this vlog. My camera battery is low and is about to die. Basically, the travel pillow didn't work out that well. I think in theory it keeps my ear from being smashed against the pillow, but it's kind of uncomfortable, and I think if I get desperate, I might just try to cut a hole in a spare pillow and see how that works, because at least then it would be bigger. But I have temporarily abandoned Ruination, and I have books from the library that I wanted to get through because I did own Ruination. I can set it aside and pick it back up again whenever I like, and I just finished reading Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. That was my next pick for my Hyper Hate series that I do, where I read bestsellers that I've never read before to try to determine why they are bestsellers and see if I can understand the hype behind them. So keep an eye out for that. It's going to be quite a trip. But that is all I have for you in this video. If you enjoyed, feel free to leave a like, comment, and subscribe so you don't miss out on any future content. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!